welcome to Hednesford Hills Raceway, just north of Birmingham. Now this weekend, Hednesford hosts one of the most dramatic events in motorsport. It's the Brisca F1 Stock Car Racing World Championship Final. 700 horsepower V8s on a 2-ton chassis makes this a fast, aggressive and incredibly loud motorsport, attracting the cream of European stock car talent. Let's go straight over now and speak to some of the drivers.
John, you're the defending champion. You were the winner in 2000. What do you fancy your chances this year?
It's going to be a battle today. I'm on the 17th row, so I have 34 cars to pass. I don't think it's impossible. Hopefully there'll be a few race stoppages. I was unable to take part in any of the qualifying rounds, so without points I didn't get into the semi-finals, so as a result I'm off the back as defending champion. I think Mark will have the same idea as me, try and get past as many cars at the start as possible, you know.
Yeah.
I just hope that the lads at the front get stuck in and slow each other up a little.
That's it. John, apart from defending your title from last year, you also have a record of having won it 7 times.
That's right, yeah. I won it for the first time in 1987 in Manchester, and I've been fortunate enough to win it 7 times in total. So today will be the 8th, but it's going to be quite a mission, I think.
Well, we wish you the best of luck, John. Thank you. Is this your first trip over?
Yes, it is, mate. Yeah, we've just come over here for the first time this year. Hopefully we can come up again next year or the year after and have another go on shale.
Obviously you didn't bring the car all the way with you. Whose car are you using?
No, we got one of the Gilbank team cars, one of Mark's cars he's been using on shale. We just we've done a setup for it for tarmac for today, and we've got a little bit of a push in it at the moment, but hopefully we can get rid of that before the race. The car was very good in the bottom bend down here, good straightaway speed, but just going into the top bend it tended to push coming off the turn, slowed the car down a fair bit. I think I could have went a little bit quicker, but we'll just have to settle for that time. I wouldn't mind bending on probably back about the 3rd row of the international drivers, I'd say, just by how the car was circulating. I don't think I'll be any further up there.
Right, and now what's the race scene like in Australia?
Well, lately I've been running our Formula 2 stock rods, which are inline 6-cylinder motors with about 300 horsepower. Very similar car to these. 12 years previous to that I was running the V8 stock cars, 360 cubic inch engines, 500 horsepower, running on methanol, full contact cars, so the contact's not a problem. And also just recently I've been running around in V6 sprint car class. They have about 300 horsepower and they're an open wheeler car. But the difference is on clay, you know, you can run wide open, you don't have to get out of the throttle. The biggest thing for me is getting used to using the brake pedal.
So you're used to a big lump underneath your foot?
Yes, when the bum comes out around here I feel I put my foot down, but it just smokes the tyres up. And we all know that just wastes tyres and time, so I just got to remember that as I go around.
Okay, Dean, well on your first trip over we wish you a lot of success.
Thanks very much.
And I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you.
Neil, it's quite a special event here today, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually. It's probably the blue ribbon event of short oval racing, I would say, because this is the biggest crowd you'll see anywhere in Britain this year for a stock car meeting.
Okay, and tell us the ones we've got to look out for today.
Well, there are about at least 6 drivers who could probably win it, I would say. There's obviously the front two rows where the favourites are at the moment, which are Andy Smith, who's on pole position, and his arch rival Frankie Wayman Jr., who's alongside him. Behind him there's Rob Speake and also Rob Cowley. Rob Speake is renowned for being what you'd call a big hitter. So the guys in front of him are going to have to watch out because he'll be probably trying to do his utmost to remove them from the race, because that's what's different about Formula 1 stock car racing compared with other forms of motor racing, is that it's a contact sport. So the drivers who are lined up behind someone and they want to get by can actually move them out of the way. Not only have you got Rob, Andy and Frank, but you've also got Gary Castell, who I'd say is the dark horse of the race, someone who could definitely win the race, because he's one of the drivers who'll probably be left alone because he hasn't got any scores to settle with him, I would say. Further back, of course, there's John Lunt, who starts right at the back of the grid. Now, John is the world champion. He's 7 times world champion. He's starting at the back because he has not been able to race that much this year because he's a farmer and foot and mouth has affected his business, so he's had to stay at home. But so therefore he's had to start at the back because he hasn't actually officially qualified for the race. But being world champion means that he can start at the back. The thing is with John, he's a canny driver, and I would not put it past him to actually finish in the first 3, believe it or not, particularly if during the race there's what's called a yellow flag period where the race has to be stopped, maybe because a car's in a fence, and you could definitely see him finishing the top 3.
So there's a possibility he could be up there on the podium. That's going to be some feat though, isn't it?
It is, but it's been done before. Peter Folding, who's also in this race, finished 3rd at Bradford back in '97, I think it was, and he started right at the back as well. The thing is, the reason why in some ways it's an advantage is that there's so much carnage going on in front. He can see exactly what's going on, so he can avoid a lot of it. But it's all to do with luck. A lot of it. It's a bit like the Grand National in certain senses, because sometimes in the Grand National the favourite may fall at the first fence, and it's the same here. Frankie Wayman and Andy Smith are the favourites to the race. They start at the front, but they might not get further than the first corner. So it's a bit of a lottery in some senses, but the best man will win.
Okay, you're the editor of Motorsport News. You obviously know what you're talking about. Give us a favourite for today.
I think Gary Castell might win it.
Okay, we'll look forward to seeing that, Neil. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're with Frankie Wayman, number 212. Frankie is a bit of an old timer in the business. Frankie, you were second 2 years ago in Coventry, is that right?
Second 2 years ago, yeah.
And how do you fancy your chances this year?
Not as good as 2 years ago.
Frankie, perhaps you'd like to talk us through what's in and under this magnificent beast.
Basically, they're completely built from scratch out of steel. Engines, 454s, 350 Chevs, 90% of them are Chevs, ranging up to, some of us up to 700 horsepower now.
Is there a lot of rivalry between you and young Frankie?
Not particularly, no. No, we do his own thing. He races seriously, I just race for fun. Anything I get's for the fun of it. Right. I don't race seriously nowadays. So I gave that up a few years ago.
He's racing like you were 15 years ago.
Yes, he is, yeah. Racing for points.
Okay, Frankie, thanks very much.
Okay.
Yeah,
cheers.
Have a good race.
Well, I've got as good a chance as anybody, but in stock car racing, pole position isn't always what it seems. It might mean you might be subject to a first men hit and your race might end there, so it just depends what my rivals are deciding to do. My intention is to go as fast as I can straight away, but like I say, I'm a little bit vulnerable, but you know, it's a stock car race. If I get around the first corner, then I'm sure it'll be a close race.
My plan of attack is to try and go as fast as I can and bloody win it. But I think some of the other drivers might have something to say about that. Not bad, it just depends on what happens with the first few laps on the two in front of me. No, we're quietly confident.
Have you, how many World Finals have you been in?
I think this is my 9th.
Right, now, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you are somewhat of a veteran, aren't you?
I ain't 21 anymore.
The cars then on the rolling lap, ready for the start of the 2001 Brisca Formula 1 Stock Car World Final here at Hednesford. This year, of course, the race on tarmac. There are 1 or 2 drivers out there who might well prefer it to be on shale, but hard luck. Andy Smith and Frankie Wayman Jr. starting at the front of the grid. But as you heard Neil Randon saying a little while ago, keep your eyes on Rob Speak, a heavy hitter, and he's going to want to try and find a way past those 2 front row drivers as quickly as he possibly can. A huge crowd here at Hednesford then ready to watch the action, and the cars making their way through. Over 700 horsepower these cars produce. And the tension building now as they make their way ready for the start. The second row of the grid, Rob Cowley lining up alongside Rob Speak, and further back on the grid, of course, John Lund. The defending champion, foot and mouth disease, has kept him at home for most of the year, unable to leave his dairy farm. And so now, as the defending champion, he gets in at the back of the grid, and Lundy has an awful lot of work to do if he wants to get through to the front. The F1 World Final then is go. The cars come off that final turn. The green flag flies, and already they're clouting the fence then. Getting a little bit crossed up. Goes 391 Andy Smith, and thanks to Rob Speak, he's in the fence already, and the crowd goes berserk. Rob Speak gets rid of Andy Smith. 391 continues, but that's cost him a whole heap of places already. Speak goes ahead of Wayman Jr. Rob Speak then, the multiple Formula 2 world champion, comes through in the lead. He's won the F2 title 8 times. Can he win the F1 crown as well? Well, 318 Rob Speak in the JB Davidson elite built car leads at the moment. Through he comes already. He's got to pick his way past 1 or 2 of the slower drivers. In second place is Frankie Wayman Jr. chasing him hard. And Andy Smith then, having run wide, clipping the fence, coming up to the start of the race, well and truly put away by Rob Speak. living up to this reputation as being a heavy hitter. Rob leads at the moment, and now he's got to pick away past Dean Hawkins there, the Australian driver. Already, of course, the quicker drivers having to worry about Lappery. 3:18, Rob Speak leads. The man from Tilsley in Manchester leading at the moment, a relative newcomer to Formula One stock car racing, and although he's got Frankie Wayman Jr. behind him at the moment, Jr. is not, I don't think, close enough to attack here. Down the back straight they come, picking their way through the traffic. Rob Speak now ready to power his way up across the line once more. Through in second place goes 515. That is Frankie Wayman Jr. And he, of course, another of the potential winners of this race. World champion back in 1998. He's already won the British Championship this year, and I think it's fair to say that Wayman Jr. was the favourite for victory before the race got underway. But he's still there, 3 lengths adrift of Rob Speak. But at the moment, he can't really get close enough to attack. He needs Speak to get delayed in the traffic. There is Wayman Jr., almost clipping the barrier as he comes off the turn. The cars now make their way along the straight. A back marker needing to be disposed of there by Frankie Wayman Jr. The back marker runs wide and Jr. through on the inside. It's still Rob Speak leading those. They come down to the turn. One of the yellow marker boards there being displayed by the marshals. We've got a car in trouble on the outside of the road, but the leaders go by with no problems now. It just looks a little bit as though Rob Speak now is breaking away slightly. Down the back straight he goes. 3:18, Rob Speak leading at the moment. 5:15, Junior Wayman second, and there he is. Rob Speak all the while now, of course, having to keep an eye on his mirrors to find out just how close Wayman is, and also start to put the bumper in to get rid of the traffic at times. They're going well. H525, the Dutch driver, that's Bert Sharp. He's taken the UK Brisca licence so that he can race over here this year, and it's been a very useful exercise. He's gained a lot of experience, and he's become a much better driver as a result. Runs a little bit wide, coming off the turn, as now they're going through on the inside. Junior Wayman making his way through the slower cars. The rapid orange car at the moment in second place, but Rob Speak looks as though he's got this pretty much sewed up, apart from the traffic maybe being a hazard for him. The opposition is not close enough as they're running wide. One of the Continental drivers coming off that turn. We've got another car up against the fence there, you can see in the background. As through they come. Rob Speak then at the moment, the dominant man here at Hednesford. Still trying to pick his way through the slower cars. Another back marker there about to get helped out of the way, possibly running wide those. Rob Speak dives through on the inside line now. Speak leading as he accelerates now back onto the straight. And Rob, having for so long dominated F2 racing, certainly put one or two drivers' backs up when he came into F1, as this young upstart immediately was on the pace, and the F1 fraternity didn't necessarily welcome him with open arms. But at the moment they are being treated to a fine display of driving. Rob Speak up front. There's the man chasing him for second place. Frankie Wayman Jr. getting sideways there, coming off the turn. Behind him, 391, Andy Smith fighting back. Son, of course, of legendary Formula One stock car champion Stu Smith. And Andy, the winner, back in 1994. And ever since then, he's had rotten luck. Last year, for example, he was leading and a sick engine stopped him. This year, helped into the fence at the first turn by Rob Speak, and now attacking for second place. Side by side look, slower car ahead and going through on the inside there. Andy Smith goes second at the expense of Wayman Jr. now. He's got this dual purpose car that's not perhaps quite as good on tarmac as on shale, and he runs wide and Wayman bounces back through there. Andy Smith clatters over the curb, came into the corner on the wrong line, gives the advantage back to Frankie Wayman Jr. And so Andy Smith gets pushed back down to third place. Still this battle rages on between the pair of them. And all the time, Rob Speak is getting away up front. Wayman is second, and there is Speak now. 318, Rob Speak, the dominant driver here in the Formula One World Final at Hednesford. Finds a way past Dean Hawkins, the Australian driver, in trouble on the bend there. But Rob Speak getting ever nearer to a maiden Formula One World Championship. And that is going to make him the most successful driver when you add up all the World Finals, compared to John Lund or Orman Christie in National Hot Rods. If you take this Formula One title to the 8 in Formula 2, Rob Speak very much at the top of his game. Through he comes then, 318 Rob Speak on target now to win the championship. A look back to see what's going on between Junior Wayman and Andy Smith, and Frankie Wayman Jr. looks for the time being as though he's got this one sewn up. And the dark horse of Neil Randon, the Motorsport News editor before the race, Gary Castell, hasn't really shone in this. He's still going, but I'm afraid he's not really on the pace at the moment to challenge the leaders. Rob Speak timed that first lap push to perfection. Managed to get Andy Smith out of the way, make the break, and he's been long gone for the rest of the night now. Through he comes once again, powering his way now onto the back straight. Of course, the World Final breaks the mould of most Brisca F1 stock car events in the sense that because of the points scored, this is one of the few times where the quicker drivers start at the front. Normally, of course, Rob and the likes of Frankie Wayman Jr. and Andy Smith would have to push their way through from the back. Well, with this being scored on points for the grid, you put the quicker drivers at the front, and that really has helped Rob Speake's chance. Of course, still John Lund fighting his way through from the back of the grid as well. Up they come now, making their way over the line. Rob Speake with more traffic to sort out, going through there on the inside of a rather slow 73 Rob Cowley. He's been fourth 3 times in the past. This has been his best season really so far. Won a couple of finals in the qualifying rounds, and they're very, very sideways indeed with smoke pouring off the tyres. Rob Speake takes the checkered flag to win this year's Brisca Formula 1 World Final. Fantastic drive by Rob Speake, a 9th World Stock Car Championship, 1 in F1 to add to the 8 in Formula 2, and now Rob can celebrate, and deservedly so. He's beaten the best of them with Frankie Wayman Jr. 2nd, Andy Smith 3rd and Paul Harrison 4th, Gary Castell 5th, ahead of John Lund up from the back of the grid to 6th, then Nick Smith and Mark Gilbank finishing in 8th place. There is the winner.
Congratulations, how does it feel to be the F1 Stock Car World Champion?
At the minute, I'm on top of the world. It's absolutely brilliant.
And a lot of pressure from behind there today?
Yeah. The car was absolutely superb, and it's good. I'm over the moon.
But you did have a good lead all the way round, really, didn't you? Come on, you got to blow your own trumpet here.
Oh yeah, definitely. I saw Frank take a dive at Andrew, and I just capitalised on the situation, and I just got in the front and gone.
And big celebrations this evening?
I rather think so.
That's all we have time for this year's Brisca F1 Stock Car World Championship. We've enjoyed it.